You are now part of a social experiment.
See now where my limit is. Only got no.
So with the Urban Intellectuals, your first product is the flashcards. What exactly went into the idea of the flashcards for you? Because I would feel like around that time, most people would want to do like an app or something digital or whatever. Like, but you have, which I got right here, Urban Intellectual
Oh man.
flashcards. So you had flashcards, man. What exactly went into that in regards to you wanting to do flashcards instead of having something computer based or app based?
Yeah, I think the like super dope entrepreneurial answer would be the same thing answer. I'm a contrarian, I just when the people zig, I like to zag. Like that would have been the super dope thing if that was true, right? If like I had that type of foresight. But back in 2011, a friend of mine told me because I was building the Urban Intellectuals like Facebook group or page, right? Like I'm doing what I do. If you follow me, anybody that follows me, I ask a lot of provocative questions, right? Not provocative in that sense, in thought-worthy, inspiring, right? In that sense, right? I try to make people think. That's one of my thesis on life, right? I think people should think. Right. So I like to interject that. So anyway, I was doing these thought-provoking things centered around Black history, culture, current events and all of that and growing it. And she was like, man, Freddie, I see what you're doing over there. Now, sis at the time is doing like 60,000 a month on the internet, make money online type stuff, right? Like that's what it was called back then. I wanted to get into that. And I was like, 60 grand a month. Oh Lord, if I made 60 grand this year, I'd be good. You know what I mean? Like I'm in there like trying to grind and figure it out. And she said, you got some traction, but you need a physical product to sell to them. And like, I was like, I'm in this Black space. What people gonna buy, right? So that was 2011. 2016, I'm still grappling with the same thing. Like, what am I going to do? And I thought back to grad school and I was like, I studied with flashcards. I'm going to make some flashcards. And like, literally that was the thought. I was like, I studied with flashcards. It worked. I got the information. I'm going to put together some flashcards centered around Black history so people can learn their history and know it. They can teach it to their children. It'd be real simple, make it fun, make it easy, bite-sized bits of information, all of the things that you see, right? And then 2017, we put them out and like, it was like, boom, right? Like a powder keg. And, after we're selling through and all of that stuff. And people are telling me, you need an app, you need an app, you need an app. But I was on the phone with the parents, with the grandma, with the granddaddy, and with the mom and the daddy. And they saying they tired of them children on these damn games.
Yeah, boy.
These screen time. So that's why I bought your flashcards. I love them. I love them. This is why I love them. And like everybody that ain't got no skin in the game is telling me what I need to do with my money, my moment. And I'm like, the people that's making this my money and making this my moment is telling me they want this. They want this low tech option. And yeah, man. So that's like the market told me. I listened.
Yes, sir. As far as the cards go, I know you got some different things happening with the cards. How did you kind of, again, Black history, like you mentioned, is vast. How did you identify the time frames you wanted to select for the cards, and then the people? You made it really more people centered than actual, like historical events and things like that. So, how did you go about selecting the people that you wanted to have on the cards?
I didn't overthink it. You know what I mean? I thought, what do I like? What do I think is important? What do I think is powerful? That's pretty much the first deck. It's a lot of me getting off who I think we need to be talking about. Which you had to slide some folks in there because everybody getting their feelings, because I didn't want to put Barack Obama in there. I'll tell you, I don't know how controversial you are, brother, but I'll be saying stuff. So I didn't want to put him in there. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't that he's not history, because he is. He's a very important piece of this story. But you know who that is. You know what I mean? Remember, my thesis is we talk about these same 8 to 12 people all the time. Why he gotta be in there? Like, I ain't want to put him in there. And I don't even know if you noticed in Volume 1, Martin Luther King ain't in there. Yeah, Nelson Mandela ain't in there.
What made you put these people in there?
The other people?
Yeah. So Barack
Well,
Obama,
Barack,
he's.
Barack the only one that made it. The other two did,
Mhm,
and it's a lot of people
mhm.
I left out intentionally because I feel like you already know them. But Barack just it's like, man, we're gonna be fighting customer service forever. We be fighting customer service over the fact that MLK ain't in there, so they ain't like that. And then we broke down, and MLK is actually in volume 3. He's as a bonus card in volume 3 because they was just breaking customer service, really wanting these people. And the way I saw it, I didn't see it as a slight to these individuals. I saw it as an honor because they talk
Yeah.
about you all the time, right? And these individuals, my humble opinion, will want you to expand the conversation because they never wanted it to be about them. It was
Hmm.
really about what we were doing. So
I think if you do end up using those individuals, though, you could like talk about facts that most people don't know.
I
You know
like
what I
that.
mean?
I like, where was you at 5 years ago, 6 years? You know what I mean? Like, I like that though. But
There you
again,
go.
focusing on things that you don't really know about them because we don't talk about, the financially conscious MLK, right? The one that was saying, hey, it's time for you to cut the check, right? They got the sanitized version of him. But I'll tell you an interesting story about Volume 2. Volume 2 is all Black women. And literally, my man.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
So I take that to Africa for the first time. We went in 2017. Yeah, 2017 for the first time. We go to Ghana. We go to Ghana, have this experience there. It's he and I our first time in Africa, right? He tells me, I want to go to Africa. I'm like, me too, Dad, let's go. So he's 87. And we fly to Africa. We go to Ghana. We have an experience. It was beautiful. We end up at Kwame Nkrumah's, W.B. Du Bois' home there. W.B. Du Bois retired in Ghana, right, at the request of Kwame Nkrumah. And they turned his house into a historical site, and, a history thing and all of that. And he's buried there. His mausoleum is there. So while in his house, we walk into the living room, right, and, they're opening the tour, and on the wall ain't none but Black women. It's a portrait of him, and every wall is covered with Black women. And I'm like, we're in there, we're listening, and we, reviewing, and I'm reading, and I'm like, what? Like, these are incredible stories. So, like, a large percentage of that deck came out of that room. Like, literally, I started taking pictures. I was like, oh, we putting these people in there, right? But if you think about it, this is what Du Bois was doing. He was chronicling Black history, right? Because the room behind me, while I'm looking at these walls, was his library. And you go in there in that library, oh my God, man, this dude everything. Like it was amazing. It was amazing. So anyway, that was that. So a lot of it just comes out of my experiences and like a lot of the stuff that I be wanting to talk about. I talk to, mentors and people I know in the space about who do you think might be, for this particular deck? Hey, we're doing before 1492. When we started 35,000 years ago, coming up to 1492. What do you think is important, right? Like off the top of my head, I know like the major stuff, right? But it's starting to get into the minutia. I have to reach out and
I might have to request a revolt deck, maybe the Haitian Revolution in there.
Oh yeah, that's in there. That is definitely included in our stuff. And you got like one of them questions I hope you kind of ask. I'm gonna dive into that because I believe the revolutionaries are important. Like you cannot breathe this out of our future, right? So I like to talk about the Haitian Revolution. I like to talk about what happened with Zumbi's Dos Palomares, right? Like we did not just lay down. I like the Natty of the Maroons, right? I like the Maroons and the Maroon invasion and the fight and the work that they did up and down.
Yes, sir. I got it right behind me, man. I got it right behind me.
All right, I endeared myself
Yes,
with
sir.
you. Good. No, but it's real.
Yeah, man.
It's real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was gonna really tackle like I think Black history sometimes, like for Black folks, especially adults, because sometimes they feel ashamed and then it gets overwhelming. Like history is so vast, and now you got to learn it at this older age that it's like really overwhelming to grasp. And sometimes I think it could be overwhelming for kids too. And they say when you're learning something, no matter how much you dive into it and you learn and you're tapped in, 10 years from now, you probably don't remember like 10 to 15% of it, maybe.
If you're lucky.
So Yeah, if you're lucky. So if you had to really tackle that 10 to 15%, like what areas would you really focus on us as in like black people in general understanding and learning about, black history?
Impossible question. And like and since we started there, like I would start with the Haitian Revolution. I think it's the most important thing that has happened on this part of the planet, and we
Hmm.
don't lean into it. We don't talk about it. We ignore it, and like black folks act like Haitians is the problem because we don't
Mm.
understand that context. And once you get the context, it opens up everything else. So there's so many stories that need to be discussed that's linked to the Haitian Revolution. So I think if you really and the revolution, didn't start happening in 1804, right? Like you got to go back you got to go back in the story, right, and really pick it up. It really helps if you start in the 1600s, 1500s, right, like, and really start to gather momentum towards that. But and then like it's like I said, it's reverberating impact not only there
Right.
but in the islands, and really around the world, right? It changed everything, literally.
Hmm.
Not even like facetiously. So that's high on my list. And you'll see me actually talking about the Haitian Revolution a lot because it links to a lot. Then I think like to piggyback off of my sister Sada, the invention of mathematics by black women, I think is like that's like a paramount conversation because one, our children run from mathematics and act like it's
Yes.
not something of them, but once they understand that this is something that they birthed, it just really puts things in perspective. And I think like pursuing like Kemet and that history, but really leaning into the math, science, engineering, technology angles of it all is very, very important. But rulership, like telling those stories from a kingdom perspective, so that they understand that we govern, we understand that we are capable of governing us, ourselves, and our people. Um, I love the story and I'm all over the place. I'm just bouncing trying to get it right, but I got Mary McLeod Bethune right here.
Mm.
Yeah, and I love that sister spirit and her fierce dedication to service. And so all of these are like things that I think we need to instill in ourselves and our next generation. So I like tying events and people to routines, conversations, and actions, I guess. But she turned a lifetime of service into um, educating tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people over the years with her college, Bethune-Cookman. But her story is so amazing from when she was a little girl and growing up. I think our children can relate to some of the stories that come out of her lifetime. I'm a big Garveyite, so I'm gonna always push Garvey. I'm always self sufficiency. I'm always gonna push connection with the global African diaspora. I'm all so like all of these things are like really close to me and who I am or
Hmm.
who I like to see myself as, right? Like let's say that, right?
Yes, sir.
I think another thing that's pretty important, last one, brother. I like to tell the stories of how these African countries got their name, like where they came from, like what's under that. Because all we like to do is talk about slavery. Oh man, they enslaved us, this so blah blah blah. It's like it's a deeper story here, and it's one that really, for me, it just pulls back all the layers, and either you got to look at systemic international racism in its face and wake up, or you just go to sleep and you've identified yourself. Like we know who you are. That's cool. We just ain't. Just don't worry. Don't wonder why you don't know how we move. Right. Right. Because it just exposes everything. Because it exposes the insurance companies. It exposes the banks. It exposes the countries that were involved. It exposes the system that is transpiring under all of this. And it really ain't even a lot of history to gather. But once you gather these things, I think you just see everything different.
So every day I'm going hard. I'm talking business, bank accounts, and credit cards. And somehow we defeat the odds and making sure that no one starve illegal. All you had